Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Clutch Talk podcast slash YouTube slash We Do It All. As always, I'm your host, John. Very happy to be here. Man, this is a special episode. This is a real special episode. We've been trying to do this for a long time and trying to get this locked in. For a special episode, we had to bring a special guest, my guy Garrett from the Super Mario Hoops 24 channel. My guy, how you doing?
I'm happy to be here. Today I'm going to be representing the guy right behind you. That Michael Jordan jersey. I see it. Interesting enough, I don't see a LeBron jersey.
I should have thrown a LeBron jersey. I just thought about that now, man. I should have put the LeBron jersey on there, man.
And it might be hard to see, but if you can see right there, last shot, Game 6, 1998 NBA Finals, right next to my guy D Rose, of course, who I did the debate with last week. So I came prepared in the back too. So
Okay, came repping big Chicago Bulls representative right here, man. My guy Garrett. But that's exactly what we're gonna get into today, man. If you clicked on this video, you already know what this is, man. This is the classic debate, the GOAT debate, LeBron versus Jordan. I mean, a lot of people, some people say that Kobe could be a GOAT. Some people, maybe even throw in Magic, but I feel like the majority of people argue between LeBron and Jordan. So, I thought, why not have this great debate? I believe LeBron James is the GOAT. I know my guy Garrett believes that Jordan is the GOAT. So let's go ahead and get into this. My guy, since you are the guest, I absolutely want to give you the floor first. So I want you to go ahead and go first. And now I'm just going to break down how it's going to go for the family out there. So we're each going to get 3 chances to go ahead and, say our side of the argument. And for every time like Garrett gets a chance, I'll get a chance to rebuttal, and then every time I get a chance to say my argument, Garrett will get a chance to rebuttal. So get all that out the way, and my guy, the floor is yours.
Yeah. I will start off by saying, with me being a Bulls fan, supporting Michael Jordan here, and with you being a Laker fan, supporting LeBron here, it's definitely going to get heated. I think probably more than the average Jordan LeBron debate. So you guys better get your popcorn. No. But I guess to start off with, for my argument, I mean, we're gonna have a few times to talk about this. So I'll start it off with, the basic stuff that most of us know already. The first point I want to touch on, like in my first segment, is simply winning. And if you look at overall win percentage, Michael Jordan has a 1% higher win percentage over his career than LeBron James, 66 to 65%. Now, that might not seem like a lot, but these guys have played over 1,000 games, So with more than 1,000 games, that's roughly a difference of about 2 decisive games per season. That's about like 30 or so all time. Like literally for LeBron to catch him, he would have to go on like a 30-game winning streak. And the outlook of the future right now, at least for LeBron or the future and the Lakers, probably not going to happen. Even if they start figuring it out, I don't think they're going to win 30 straight games, especially because LeBron's never done that in his career. Looking at the NBA Finals, everyone loves to argue the 6-0 against the 4-6. I think it definitely plays a part. Credit to LeBron for making 10 finals, but winning 6 of them and never losing is an insane achievement, especially having 6 finals MVPs, which is something that no one else has ever been able to match. And in the finals, record-wise, game by game, Michael Jordan is 24-11 in the finals by a game, whereas LeBron James is 22-33. So LeBron is even yet to match him in total wins, despite making 4 more finals appearances. So just something to take into account. Michael Jordan also has never lost 3 consecutive games throughout the whole 1990s. Over that stretch, played 685 games. Other than LeBron's 2012-2013 NBA season, he's lost 3 straight games or more at least once in every single season of his career, starting from rookie year all the way till now. In the playoffs, Michael Jordan, 119-60 all time, about 66.5% win percentage. LeBron played more games, 174-92, but that's more than a percentage point lower than Michael Jordan as well. Michael Jordan's made the playoffs 13 of his 15 years. That's roughly 87% of the years, whereas LeBron has made it 15 of 19 years, which currently is about 79%, but it looks like right now, with them being outside the play-in, looks like it's going to be 15 to 20 years. So it's going to be on track to be 75%. And even if they did make the playoffs this year, that would still only be 80% of the time. That's 7% lower than Michael Jordan. So at least for the winning argument, I didn't even really touch much on, per game win-loss records in the regular season. Michael Jordan has a 72-win season that he was a big part of. He has a 69-win season he was a big part of. He has another 67-win season he was a big part of. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't have it up here, but I think LeBron's best record was 66-16. So that's 3 seasons right there that he has above him. In terms of individual accolades, the major stuff, the MVPs in the regular season, LeBron does have 4, but Michael Jordan has 5. Defensive Player of the Year, Michael Jordan has gotten 1. LeBron has not gotten 1. And MJ, so here's another thing about this too. MJ finished 5th in 4 years for Defensive Player of the Year. He finished 4th one time. He finished 3rd another year. And he finished runner-up another year. So overall, he was a top 5 finisher for Defensive Player of the Year 8 times. LeBron was a runner-up in 2009 and 2013, and he was 4th 2 other years. So that's 4 such appearances for him. Literally half the amount of times he was up there in the real discussion for Defensive Player of the Year. And even the times he did lose, even though I'm sure you're going to probably make an argument about he should have won in 2013 over Marc Gasol and stuff like that, let's face it, like when Michael Jordan was the runner-up his one year, it was to Hakeem Olajuwon. I mean, there's a big discrepancy there. In terms of all defensive, Michael Jordan has made 9 teams. LeBron has made 6, and one of those was a second team. So really, he's made 5 first-team all defensive. In terms of league leaders, and this is something I bank on a lot, because if you're leading the league in something, that means like you're dominating the league in a certain category. And as long as it's one of the 5 major stats, I didn't even really look at efficiency, even though neither of these guys for field goal percentage or 3-point percentage ever led the league. But Michael Jordan has 13 of these where he's led the league in something, 10 scoring titles, 3-time steals leader. LeBron only has 2, 1 scoring title and 1-time assists leader, which is kind of funny to me, considering the fact that LeBron fans always tell me the reason he doesn't have as high of a career point per game average or as many scoring titles as Jordan is because he was more focused on a pass first player, which first of all, it isn't true. And I could even get more into depth about that. If you want to talk to me about that, you can. But second of all, if that was the case, then I'm just curious why LeBron doesn't have as many assist titles as Jordan has scoring titles, or arguably more, because at this point he's played about 400 more career games and 5 more seasons total. So just something to keep in mind. In the playoffs, MJ also has 13 again, where he's led the league in something, 11 scoring titles, 2 steal titles, while LeBron has 3. And granted, all of those are scoring titles, but I mean, 3 to 11, it's a big difference there. Now, games in a season too, I know this kind of goes hand in hand with league leaders. I always wonder what happened to people saying LeBron was the most durable player ever, because for a while people were trying to say that. And I mean, even though he's played, a lot of games, like when you throw him up with other great scorers, I mean, that's a big reason why he even achieved the all-time scoring record this year. But MJ has played all 82 games 9 times in his career. LeBron has only done so once. The real records is that LeBron has, after playing about 25% more games and more seasons than Jordan, even though I would expect him to have probably, if he played that many more games and if he is the GOAT, about 25% more achievements than Michael Jordan, especially since he came in at an earlier age. And although he is 38, which is pretty old, he's yet to reach Jordan's maximum age in the NBA. So these all-star and all-NBA achievements that he has over Michael Jordan, that tells me maybe he has more years being a top 15, top 25 player in the league. But it also screams to me that Michael Jordan has more seasons being that guy, the number 1 guy. Stuff like MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, league leader titles. That's what that all screams to me personally. And I'm not going to, again, because we're going to have a few things we're going to talk about. But another thing I will mention right now is that Jordan is actually a better jump shooter than LeBron James. Now, statistically, in the NBA Finals, Michael Jordan's a better 3-point shooter. Career-wise, regular season and the playoffs, LeBron is a better 3-point shooter. But in the finals, MJ has a better 3-point percentage than LeBron. He also has a better free throw percentage and the same field goal percentage And when it comes to jump shooting as a whole, MJ's is actually better. So in just the last 4 years of MJ's career, he shot about 83.5% of his shots from outside 10 feet, whereas LeBron for his career is about 52%, and Jordan's efficiency is more than 5% better. So, and remember, that's just his last 4 years. They don't have it tracked through his prime or anything like that, but that's also counting his Wizards years when he shot like 24% from three. So just take that into account. There's a reason that people criticize LeBron for saying, oh, he has no bag or no moves. And I'm not going to say that that's true or anything, but at least compared to like the Jordans or the Kobe's or something that have a higher success in the mid range or from the fadeaway. I mean, LeBron's patented move really is almost like the layup or the dunk because he drives to the rim at so much. Like he drives, I think 75% of his shots are around the rim. And he's good at it, but some teams like the 2007 San Antonio Spurs, for example, have used this against him. This is his preferred strength, and they force him to work his magic in other ways, like shooting the ball. A big reason why he shot 35% from the field in that series. And I guess the last thing I'll touch on right now before I give you the floor is just advanced analytics while I'm talking about individual league leader stuff and achievements and everything. But in terms of PER ever, MJ has the highest PER of all time. LeBron is third. He actually was second for a while, but Jokic just recently passed him. Win shares per 48. Jordan is also first ever. LeBron is eighth. VORP rating average per season, MJ is first. LeBron is second. And in terms of BPM ever, MJ is second. LeBron is third, with Jokic again being up there at number one most recently. And these are probably some of the most reliable advanced analytics because they tell us the average value rating of efficiency that a player creates for their team, what share of a winning product they provide to their team, and the difference they make when on the court. And from all these categories I just listed, MJ has done it better than LeBron. And some of them, he's like literally right behind him. He's that first guy right behind him. So it only adds the element that LeBron James is not as good as Michael Jordan. And again, I have more stuff to say, but I'm not going to say it right now. I'll give you the floor right now, and I'll get ready to make my rebuttal points as you start going. So okay, you can go ahead.
All right, here we go. So first, before I get to my argument that I built out, I'm gonna get to some of the points that you talked about. So I'm gonna go ahead and rebuttal to your argument, right? So I might be bouncing all over the place because I was trying to write as you were talking and all that. But one of the things that you said, and so you were talking about how Michael Jordan never lost 3 straight games or more, but LeBron did, and one thing I like to say is that men lie, women lie, but numbers don't, man, and that is facts is facts. But one thing that we also know is that LeBron James faced tougher competition, and not just in the finals, not just in the playoffs. Throughout his career, he's faced tougher competition. I mean, the NBA is at its all-time skill level. The NBA is at a all-time efficiency rating. The NBA is at an all-time. This is the best that we've seen players. I'm not saying that players weren't good back then. Players were more physical, but they weren't more skilled. And again, when people talk about that physicality point, it really kind of irks me because it's like you can't act like these guys nowadays aren't physical. You can't act like they're scared to be physical. It's just the way the game is called. The game is different, so they have to be less physical, or else they're just gonna fall out. In the first quarter. So that's one thing I wanted to touch on. And then I also wanted you to touch on you were talking about some of the awards, right? And you said that Jordan has that one depot, and I'm going to touch on that in my arguments too. And versus LeBron not having one, but I mean, let's be real. Eras were just different. Like the eras were just different. Big back then, guards and 1 to 2 to 3 men, they could win Defensive Player of the Years. Before Marcus Smart won this last year, we all know that Defensive Players of the Years for all the 2000s been almost every single time going to big men who are leading the league in blocks. It's never really often the guard plays. I believe one of the few guard plays from the 2000s, I believe might have been Tony Allen, and then Marcus Smart had got his this last year. And then another point you touched on was talking about Michael Jordan's efficiency. And I don't want to misspeak, so feel free to barge in and let me know if I'm wrong and misspeaking. But I think you said that Michael Jordan was more efficient from his career. Is that correct, or you didn't say that? And I mean
No,
from the field.
so when I was talking about PER, like I was talking about he has a higher career PER than LeBron, and also VORP rating average plays a part in efficiency as well. So what those tell me to me is that they provide more of a value rating of efficiency for their team than LeBron. And also, like when I was talking about like jump shooting, like as a whole, like jump shooting, like if you combine mid range and 3-pointers, like Jordan's actually like substantially a more efficient player than LeBron. People might think it because LeBron has a higher 3-point percentage or something, but it's actually not true. So that's what I was saying earlier, though.
Got you. Yeah. So I thought you were referencing the point of like field goal percentage and career field goal percentage and 3-point percentage, because at that LeBron has beats out Jordan in both. LeBron is 50% from the field for a career. Jordan at 49% from the field for a career. LeBron James 34% from the 3-point line for the career. To Jordan's 32. And then one of my last rebuttal points that I want to bring up is you were wondering why LeBron well, you were saying that I guess you didn't agree with it, but you were saying I guess LeBron doesn't have like a bag like Jordan and Kobe. Okay, that's wild to me because he leads the NBA in all-time scoring. Like, there's no way you can
Mm.
get there just by being stronger and bigger than everyone. Like, there that it doesn't happen like that. I agree, LeBron is bigger and stronger than a lot of people, and he bulldozes his way to the hoop. But you can't get to the spot like that not having a elite bag. And I mean, his bag is so deep that he's actually been able to change his bag, kind of actually similar to what Kobe Bryant did. Kobe Bryant came into the league when he was Froby, right? Dunking on everybody, getting to the hoop. That's what LeBron did. LeBron was that assassin, that athlete. Every time he's dunking, elbows at the rim. And now, as he's gotten older, he's transitioned his game. I mean, it's a perfect story if you look at it. He came into the NBA dunking over everybody, putting his nuts on Ray Allen's face on that on that alley oop from Norris Cole and all that. And now he hit the bucket to become the all-time NBA leading scorer, a fadeaway. Like, that is just beautiful transition of the game, man. But that was just what I want to talk about for my rebuttal. So let me go ahead and then get into my argument here. So I'll go ahead and get that started. And I broke this down into 6 reasons, into I guess 6 reasons or 6 categories as to why LeBron James is, in my opinion, the GOAT and better than Michael Jordan. But one thing that I do want to mention at the top of my argument is, like, man, like, for the family out there at home, like, and even you, Garrett, like, we got to remember, like, comparing players across eras is so difficult. It's so difficult because the era was just two totally different era. So they're like different things are measured as good and different things are measured as bad. So that's one thing I wanted to say. But I'll go ahead and jump into my first point, and that's going to be versatility, man. I mean, LeBron honestly might be one of the most versatile players like of all time. He's extremely versatile and can play 1 through 5 and excel at 1 through 5. I mean, when we look at it, I just talked about it. He's the NBA all-time leading scorer. He's number 4 in assists, which shows to his playmaking ability, his leadership ability. He's grabbed more rebounds than Jordan throughout his career at 7.5 versus Jordan 6.2. And then I'm going to touch on the depot, right? Yes, LeBron James does not have a defensive player of the year. Should have had a defensive player of the year, but this is not shoulda, coulda, woulda, right? Michael Jordan, he does have a defensive player of the year, but again, I just can't sit here and tell you I think Michael Jordan's a better defender than LeBron because of that depot, because of eras were just two completely different eras. And I mean, when we look at what makes a defender is build, is athleticism. And I mean, look at LeBron's build, 6'9", 250 versus Michael Jordan, 6'6", 210. As a defender and in their prime, in their heydays, I'm taking LeBron James. And I mean, LeBron James had a game-winning block. Like, that block he had on Andre Iguodala ended up ultimately being a game-winning block, which helped the Cavs end up going on to win our championship. I don't know many, not even just Jordan, many other players in general, that will come up with huge NBA Finals game winning blocks like that. Especially the way he ran from the other side of the court to pin that. That was insane. But it's continuing on versatility, right? Um, LeBron's has had to play different roles in his career because this is also because he's been on different teams. But I feel like Michael Jordan, his role has always been one thing. It has been to score, go get a bucket. Don't worry about nothing else. And I mean, we can prove this by Scottie Pippen himself came out and in an interview he was talking about that LeBron and Jordan debate, and he said what he was giving LeBron some credit, and he's like, man, what LeBron does on the defensive end has got to be impressive because I mean, when you think about it, Scottie Pippen was out there to be Jordan's dirty man, like do Jordan's dirty work on the defensive end. He's gonna pick up the other best player on the defensive end. He's gonna be scrapping, and I'm not sitting here saying Jordan wasn't a good defender, but I'm saying that Scottie Pippen was on that team to help hide Jordan a little bit so Jordan could get a break and just focus on offense. While LeBron never really had that luxury. He's on a lot of teams he's been on. He's been asked to be the playmaker. He's been asked to be the scorer. He's been asked to be the father figure, like the leader, like a veteran. He's a lot of times been asked to be a big defender. And I mean, just to kind of close the versatility point, when we look at LeBron's ability to control the offense, play different roles, rebound, and defend at a higher level, all better than Michael Jordan, I think would make him a more versatile player. But let me get to my next point here, and that is the consistency, right? Consistency. LeBron James has been more consistent throughout his career than Michael Jordan. I mean, LeBron James has been remarkably consistent. I mean, when we look at his 10-year run, like 10-year finals run, and honestly, sometimes when I have this conversation, this arguing with people, I really have to have like a human to human moment with them, and this is the way I try to explain it. Like some kid could have been born, okay, could have been born and then gone from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and only seen LeBron James in the NBA Finals. Do we understand how absolutely absurd that is? And the difficulty of getting to the NBA Finals and then to do it 10 times is insane. Now I know the point that's going to come is the winning with it, and then the point that rebuttals that is the competition with it. But I'll go ahead and keep on pushing with the consistency. And I mean, I just want to kind of pull up a little visual here. So let me know if you could you see that picture, my boy.
Yes, I can see that. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I just wanted to pull up this picture right here real quick. This is just gonna tell you shows LeBron's consistency, man. This just it took the average of LeBron between these years. So if you're on YouTube, you do see it on the screen. If you're on podcast, don't worry about it. I will list that off to you. And LeBron's year 1 through 7, 27.8 points per game, 7 rebounds, seven assists, 1.7 steals. Years 8 through 11 of his average 26.9 points per game, 7.6 rebounds per game, 6.7 assists per game, 1.7 steals. Years 12 through 15, 26 points per game, seven rebounds per game, eight assists, 1.4 steals, and then this isn't even updated. They only have years 16 to 17, and here is 27 points per game, 81% from 81, 8 rebounds a game, 9 assists, 1.3 steals, and I mean at this age for LeBron to be doing what he's doing, and right now at the age of 38, dominating, and I mean I know he's out right now, but there was times when AD was out and he was the man leading that team, man. So I mean, when we look at consistency and when we look at the age, I mean, by the time Michael Jordan was 38, he was probably puffing on cigars and playing golf. LeBron James is still arguably a top player in the NBA. So I think LeBron James blow Michael Jordan out of the water in consistency. Also, Michael Jordan played for 15 years versus LeBron 20 and counting. Who knows how long he will go? Like I honestly would not be like I guess mind blown if he played another 10 years. It sounds crazy, but it would not be crazy because of the way he's out there. And then also most impressive is the fact that he was able to stay consistent while facing harder competition. And this is what I was talking about earlier when in my rebuttal point. I gotta talk about the fact that this man has just simply faced harder competition throughout his career. I hope everyone out there can see this. It is just it's a NBA Finals player competition, and I mean when we look at it, the best couple players on Michael Jordan's face in his finals runs have what been older Magic Johnson, John Stockton, Karl Malone, Gary Payton, maybe Charles Barkley. When we look over here at LeBron James' side, just the Spurs alone, there's more players. Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker. But okay, we can keep it pushing. We can go to the Mavs, Dirk, Jason Kidd. We can go to the Oklahoma City Thunder, Russell Westbrook, Serge Ibaka, Kevin Durant, James Harden. I mean, the list goes on. When we start bringing in those Warriors teams that were basically cheat codes: Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, Andre Iguodala, Draymond Green, Kevin Durant. So you're bringing in all Kawhi Leonard. I got Garrett on the show. I got to remember Kawhi Leonard, right? So man, like Kawhi Leonard, right? So when we look at this, I think it just makes the argument of consistency much more impressive because it's like, dang, you were able to be consistent, more consistent than the other guy, and through tougher competition. So I got to give a huge props for LeBron on that and give him the up on the consistency. And then my last one that I'm gonna get to here. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and say that. I'm gonna go ahead and say that. So you go ahead and let me know your rebuttal, and then go ahead and get into your point. But that was my first argument for LeBron.
Okay. You said a lot of the things that I figured you probably would. But no. So actually, the first thing I'll use in my rebuttal is, could you bring up like that graphic you just put up again? So I'm just gonna say that right away, this is a very misleading graphic. If you look on the right side, it says 2007, looking at Tim Duncan and Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, and Bruce Bowen. Okay, like there's an all-star mark by some of these guys as if they're all-stars, but they weren't all-stars at that point, right? Like we got Manu Ginobili here. He wasn't an all-star in 2007, right? And we're putting in guys like Serge Ibaka, who, even though he was a really good defender, right? And we got Ginobili in 2014 again. I love Ginobili. Andrew Bogut in here in 2015, right? It's misleading because, yeah, maybe at one point they were all stars. At one point they were all defensive, not in the times they played him. Like I'm seeing Jason Kidd here in 2011. Like Jason Kidd in 2011, really? Like I would argue he wasn't even a top 3 player on that team that won the championship, right? And meanwhile, I'm looking here on the left and I'm seeing over here, it looks like there's I think Clyde Drexler and I think that's Buck Williams. Like, so no Kevin Duckworth, no Jerome Kersey, no Terry Porter, who for a lot of games was actually the best player on that Portland team in that playoff run. I'm looking at this Phoenix team. There's Charles Barkley, obviously league MVP that year. And then I see Dan Marley. I don't see Kevin Johnson at all, who I think most people would agree was the second best player on that team. And if we're doing like one time, at least sometime they were an all-star or something like that, then where's Jeff Hornacek on the Jazz, right? Because he wasn't an all-star those seasons with the Jazz, but he was at one point in his career, which I could say the same thing about the Jason Kidd point there. I could say the same thing about, Kawhi in 2014 and 2013. I didn't even see he was there both years. How about James Harden in 2012? So you see what I mean? How that's a little misleading. Like, yeah, these players were still effective. They weren't all-stars. They weren't defensive players, like for the most part. I'm not saying
Kawhi wasn't a defensive player because that's when Kawhi had a breakout year as a defensive player facing LeBron.
So in 2013 and 2014, you see the star right by Kawhi's name, and you see the star by Ginobili's name. Were they all-stars that year?
They
Yes
they
or no?
were not they were not
Okay.
all-stars. But
Yeah.
is that the only thing that determines a good player? Is an all-star?
No,
the only
but
thing?
no, but here's my point: is that we're marking it on this graphic for guys like Ginobili and Kawhi who weren't all stars, guys like Kevin Johnson, who was all NBA more times than he was an all star, and was literally the second biggest reason they made the finals in 1993. Terry Porter as well, who was an all-star for several years. You see what I mean? Like Jeff Hornacek was at one time an all-star. So if
Let me
we're
ask
going
you
to
a question real quick. Okay,
go ahead,
quick
go
question.
ahead, go ahead.
I agree. Even if we take the stars out, even if we say like, okay, they weren't an all-star that year, they were facing LeBron.
Mm-hmm.
Would you or would you not agree that even with that, LeBron still had tougher competition when you just look at those Warriors teams?
So that brings me to my next point, and you can put this graphic away now. Okay, yeah. So that brings me to another one of my points in my rebuttal. So at least like when they faced a team in the playoffs ranked top 10 in defensive rating, Michael Jordan, he's 22 and 13 in those games, 62.8% win percentage, whereas LeBron is 26 and 19, a 57.7% win percentage. Against 60 win teams in the playoffs, Michael Jordan is 7-2, LeBron James is 3-4. Against 50 win teams, Michael Jordan is 20-7, and LeBron is 10-9. And I already know that the first thing you're going to say is, well, how about you check 70 win teams? LeBron James, he's 1-0 against 70 win teams, against the 73 win team. Okay. Well, that's because Michael Jordan was that team. You know what I mean? Like one game difference, whoop-de-dee, but like he was literally that team, right? So, I mean, you can make that argument all you want, and I'm not denying that 2016 was huge for not only just in general as like one of the better titles in recent history, at least, but like it was huge for his career, you know, because it was like he won it with Cleveland and he needed to win with Cleveland. It still is like the best title of LeBron's career of the four. So I'm not denying that. But at the same point, it's like, you know, people want to say this stuff like, oh, Jordan never beat a 70 whatever win team. That's because Jordan was the 70 win team. So, I mean, that's just something to take into account. A few other things I will say about my rebuttal is, so you said like you were making points about how you think LeBron is you know, the better defender. So over their career, MJ has 4.3 defensive win shares per year, whereas LeBron is 3.9. Actually, it's lower than that. I rounded up. And Jordan also has 9 seasons above 5 defensive win shares, whereas LeBron only has 4 seasons above that. So in terms of contributing on the defensive end to a winning product, Jordan has done so twice as much at an exceptional level of over 5 defensive win shares a season. And for his career, it's still higher. I know the career thing, you probably wouldn't care as much because it's like LeBron's played more seasons, but I think the 9-4 seasons above 5 defensive win share, it tells a lot about like how long they were a really elite defensive player. And I think that all defensive teams represent that as well. In terms of LeBron's bag, like, yeah, like I'm not going to touch on this much. I mean, I said like, I'm not denying like, or whatever. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, he has no bag or whatever. But I was just comparing that like to Jordan or Kobe or something. Compared to them, like he doesn't look like he has as sick of a bag. And if you want to like disagree, that's completely fine. I'm probably not even going to touch about his bag anymore in all this, but I just wanted to make that known. And something else I will say, I guess, actually 2 more things I will say. So I know you mentioned like all-time scoring leader, and I knew you were going to mention this at least once. So my point with this is that if before LeBron was even in the picture for being the all-time scoring leader, like the all-time total points leader was Kareem. Okay, and then second was Karl Malone, third was Kobe, and then fourth was Jordan. Like if we're gonna sit here and say he's like the greatest scorer ever or something like that because of that, like it just doesn't seem representative of like him as a scorer, right? Otherwise, you'd have to say, well, Karl Malone's like the second greatest scorer, now the third greatest scorer or something, if we're gonna base it off the total points. So I know you didn't really make that argument like from when I was talking, but I think it's a little bit like misleading as well. And I didn't want you to go down that road if you were thinking that and you just hadn't said it yet. But
wait. I'm confused. Wait, so
okay.
Well, run that back. Run that back to me.
So now that like LeBron has the most total points, there were a lot of people saying, and I know you haven't like actually said this yet, but I didn't want you to actually say it eventually. And if you do believe it, then I guess there's that. But I just don't know how you could, at least for the all-time scoring leader. Like there's people that are saying LeBron is the greatest scorer ever now because he has the most total points, which isn't true because for that to be the case, then how would you not have, if you're going to go by that logic, then you would have had to have had Kareem as the greatest scorer ever, then Karl Malone as the second best scorer, then Kobe as the next best scorer, then Jordan. You know what I mean? Like you'd have to follow in that suit. And
But I do.
so
I would.
So you think Karl Malone is a better scorer than Michael Jordan too?
I mean, if what we're basing it off is points, and I'm looking at the points, I mean, it's like I say, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. No, I'm
Okay.
staring at the number.
Anyone watching in the comments can they can give their opinion on that, because I feel like I don't need to go more into detail about that. But and then the last, I guess, quick rebuttal I'll make is that for me personally, and a big reason why I think Jordan is to go, is this has never been a means of who can last the longest or play the most or whatever. Because to me, both of them are Hall of Famers. Both of them are some of the greatest players ever. At the very least, top 5 players ever, no matter which way you string it. And I know, like, I think Shannon Sharp made a point about this recently about, like, if you have one guy who finishes the marathon, but he takes 2 stops in between and then finishes it, or you have one guy who keeps running through or whatever all the way, like, you got to pick the second guy. To me personally, both these guys have finished the marathon, right? Both of them have finished the marathon. It's just a matter of LeBron keeps running through the tape, after it's already finished. So that's how I see it, at least like that little analogy. You could disagree, but that's just how I see it. So I guess, like, to get into, though, my points that I was going to make for this part, the first thing I will say about Michael Jordan is I didn't really touch more on the playoffs, but in his NBA career, according to, Sports Raid, who tracks all the professional odds from every playoff series, Michael Jordan was 27-0 in a series where he was deemed the odds-on favorite. Okay. And LeBron still has a great record as a favorite in the series, but he's at 33-4 all time. But I mean, like, let's think here. If he's won 27 series and each series about 4 or 5 games, that's more than 100 games, more than an NBA season plus a full playoffs worth. So to think that if he had played 10 more playoff series to equal LeBron as the favorite, that he would go like 6-4 in those series is pretty insane. I mean, 10-0 is what would be, according to the track record, maybe like 9-1 if he played a KD Warriors type of team or something. There was like a situation like that, which that's not something I even hold against LeBron, like losing in like 2018, for example. But that maybe, okay, and like there could be a certain situation, but to go 6-4, that just seems unrealistic based on what the track record says. MJ has only shot below 40% from the field once in one playoff series. It was in 1997, the Eastern Conference Finals against the Miami Heat. And he still averaged 30 points a game in that series. They won the series 4-1, and they eventually won the title. But LeBron has done this 4 times against the Spurs in 07, as I said before, 2008, Eastern Conference second round against Boston, 2015 finals against the Warriors, and 2015 second round against my Bulls. And they lost all these series except the Bulls one, which they still even could have lost that series if it wasn't for a missed excessive timeout call, which was confirmed in the last 2-minute report of that game. So Michael Jordan also has outscored 268 of his 269 opposing players in his NBA career in the playoffs. The only guy who outscored him ever was Terry Cummings by 1 single point. Okay. That's the same amount that Jason Terry outscored LeBron in the 2011 finals, which that doesn't even account for Dirk, who scored well more than LeBron in that series. And it also doesn't account for Wade, who Jordan's never had a teammate that was the primary scorer on his team for a playoff series. And he did so with nearly as many assists and a much better assist to turnover ratio as well. Overall, I mean, that series, it plays a huge blemish on, I think, LeBron's legacy. And you can say, like, well, he's overcome it and stuff. That's fair. Okay. But at the same point, it's like, what bad series did MJ have to overcome? I think the worst series you can make is his 2015 or his 1995 Magic series, maybe. But even then, he still was the best player in that series. Shaq even confirmed that. And then also, like, in 2019, where Jordan in 1995 came back and pushed this team into the playoffs. A lot of people forget that because they saw the year before and the Bulls had a pretty good record. They made the second round. So they just assumed they were that same team the next year. Well, they weren't. They were on the brink of missing the playoffs, and Jordan led them back into it. Whereas like we got LeBron in 2019, where he said, I'm going to activate playoff mode, and they go like 3-13 over a 16 game stretch, and they ultimately miss out. And for the most part, I mean, I know they had some knick-knack injuries here and there, but other than Lonzo Ball, basically every rotation player played for a decent chunk of those games. So additionally, MJ shoots more than half a percentage better from three in the playoffs as opposed to his regular season. And LeBron drops more than half a percentage in the 3-point range in this scenario. So I also think when it comes to the playoffs, and especially that 95 series, everyone says that he left the game for a year and a half, then 3 more years. So he should have been in like better shape with all that rest or whatever. And as someone who played baseball growing up for 15 years, in fact, for most of my life I've lived, baseball has been my favorite sport. Okay. So this is probably one of the dumbest takes I've heard in the whole history of the NBA. And it shows that I think people like their brains have been fried with the load management thing, because when you play baseball, the conditioning is like 100 times worse in the MLB as it is as just an outfielder, as opposed to an NBA player. And it's even worse probably for a catcher, a pitcher, especially first baseman, third baseman, maybe like your inside, like shortstop, second baseman. But MJ was an outfielder, which probably does require the most condition. But I'm just saying, like, it's nowhere near as much condition as you need to play professional basketball. And on occasion, he would go back to practice at the facility with Bulls players and stuff. But it's a way different feel to do something like that once a day as opposed to maybe once bi-weekly. And even that, like, baseball is a much more game heavy sport than basketball has ever been too. So I don't even know if that opportunity presented itself enough. I can't provide you with exact numbers, how many times he went to go to the arena and like practice or whatever with them. But my best bet is it's nowhere near as much as he was when he was on the team. So that definitely plays a factor. And then to come back from that 21 months later, and then eventually win 3 more titles in the next 3 years is an insane accomplishment, right? There's a lot of players today that have never three-peated. He did so after taking like 21 months off, and he wasn't even in good shape. And I always hear people say that, oh, Hakeem would have won if MJ never left or whatever. And maybe he could have, it'll never, I guess, be proven. But my biggest question is, like, did Hakeem leave for another sport prior to 95, 96? Because conveniently after Jordan got back in NBA condition, he never made the finals again. So that's just something to take into account. And people want to use regular season matchups. And it never tells the full story. We've seen so many champions that maybe they got swept in the regular season series against a certain team. Come playoff time, like, they sweep the other team or something like that. But personally, for me, it would just be hard to break up the chemistry if they'd won 3 straight, going into a 4 straight finals and 5th straight, and that Rockets team wouldn't have much experience. I know Hakeem kind of had some. He made the finals like his second year, but a lot of those guys hadn't ever made the finals. So I don't know. I just think, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about Hakeem later. But I guess the last point I'll make right now before I give you the floor again is just touching on his competitive nature. And everyone's always said that Jordan has not only the highest competitive drive in NBA history, but of any athlete ever. And some could argue maybe any human ever. Really, there's stories about like ping pong games and stuff and golf wagers, whatever, maybe even casinos. I won't deny it. But, the point is, like, no matter what he does, where he goes through like any capacity to be better than anyone at whatever it is. There's stories about him post-retirement when he was like, being the owner of the Hornets / Bobcats. Apparently Michael Kidd-Gilchrist said he beat him one-on-one, and I know Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, like, yeah, he's a bum, he sucks, but this is like right after he got drafted 2nd overall. So to think that he was better than the 2nd overall pick in a draft fresh out of when he got drafted, that's pretty insane. Maybe you could argue that I guess MJ is such a bad owner that he intentionally drafted him so that he could beat him one-on-one and prove he's the GOAT or something. I guess that's fair, but I don't know. That would be insane sabotage. But we also got like, I don't know if you've seen Bismack Biyombo just a month ago. He kind of made like a similar point. Like he reflected back on and he played for the Hornets and stuff. And he said like he's seen him play one-on-one after games and was taking players out. He would like come into practice, play people one-on-one, and he would literally just kill them 100%. That was straight up word for word what Bismack Biyombo said. So, and then meanwhile, there's also instances where maybe LeBron, like there's been reports where he played Michael Beasley one-on-one in practice and ultimately lost like most of those
Come
games.
on, bro. You can't believe that report, bro. Come on.
But okay. So then we can't, you're saying we can't believe any of these reports then, like about the Jordan or whatever. I don't know. The one thing I will say though is it just adds more fuel to the fire with the Larry Bird quote where he said, and this was between LeBron and Kobe, but he said if he wants to have fun, he'll pick LeBron, but if he wants to win, he would pick Kobe. And of course, MJ wasn't in this topic of discussion, but I would assume if he said, okay, sub in Kobe and replace him with MJ or something, and if he was re-asked the question, he probably wouldn't say the same thing. Like, yeah, I wanting to have fun, maybe play with LeBron. If I want to win, I'll pick MJ, because I think personally, like people probably don't feel as driven like by LeBron as a leader in their ear and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like they'll have more fun playing with him because he's more like a get the feel for his teammates type of guy. Whereas MJ, it's like he's gonna push you no matter what.
He's a ball.
And oh,
That's
really?
what MJ is. He's a ball hog, and LeBron gets his teammates involved.
Well, averaged a triple double when he played point guard, by the way. But no, what I will say is he's more in your ear about like, you know, we're gonna do this. You're gonna get to my level. You're gonna play with my intensity. And I mean, what we've seen so far is one of them has resulted in more success than the other. I'll give you the floor though now, and you can respond to that. But yeah.
Yes, sir, bro. Yes, sir. All right, so I'll go ahead and run off the rebuttals for that. Honestly, I gotta go off like you how like I honestly don't I'm trying to having a hard time putting the words together, but like how do you genuinely not believe LeBron is the number one scorer or the greatest scorer if he is the number one scorer of all time? Like I'm not saying like I'm not trying to say Michael Jordan isn't a good scorer or Kobe or these people aren't a good scorers, but I'm just saying like when you take everything into account, because scoring is, yes, can you do it in your prime? That's a part of scoring, but another part of scoring is, can you make this go longer, right? I think about Russell Westbrook as an example, right? When Russell Westbrook was young and athletic, blowing by everybody and scoring, bro, we all thought this guy he's a Hall of Famer. He's that guy. He's that guy. And he got older. He could not transition his game. And what happened? He had an insane drop off in scoring category. So I think that the transition of LeBron from what he did to what he was to what he is right now it's gotta play a part in it, and it's gotta be like help somebody, be like, yeah, all right, cool. Like I've never seen somebody go from this type of scoring to this type of scoring and still be efficient in it. Like he's been efficient in every type of different, scoring role he's played in. So I guess that was just a disbelief that I had in my mind, honestly. But another point that I remember you brought up was you had brought up about the Jordan never having another primary scorer, which I agree. But that also plays to the part of one of my first point that I made of Jordan only had to focus on run one role, go get a bucket, go score, go be a bucket. That's all he had to focus on, because he had a primary defender on his team to hide Jordan a lot of times, to give Jordan a break a lot of times. Versus LeBron, he was that defender on the team. He was the guy that would have to go and step up to the other team's best defender. Because I agree, Dwayne Wade is a better offensive player than Scottie Pippen. I mean, Scottie Pippen career 16 points per game, Dwayne Wade career 22 points per game. But I would say that Scottie Pippen is leaps and bounds above a defender than Dwayne Wade ever was. So that I gotta bring that up point as a rebuttal. So it's like, yes, LeBron had a primary scorer with him, but he had to also fill both roles of the offense and the defense. And then that point that you made of when LeBron said in 2019 he was going to, activate playoff mode. Um, I, if I understood your point right, like it sounded like you were trying to like compare, LeBron saying like, oh, I'm going to go in playoff mode, and Jordan, his playoff winning. But I mean, I think that's just unfair to compare Alonzo Ball Lakers 2019 Lakers versus Michael Jordan's Chicago's Bulls. Like I just think that that's two like disproportionate things to compare. And then the last rebuttal point that I'll make is you talked about Michael Jordan three-peating. Man, I think that's insanely impressive. And I don't want people to think like, oh, John doesn't like Jordan or John is speaking down on Jordan. Like I'm really not. I think it's extremely impressive for the fact that the man goes on a three-peat, takes a break, and then comes back and goes on a three-peat. Like that's it's crazy to think about. But what also I think is crazy to think about, and we should look on the other spectrum of things, is that the fact that you said players don't three-peat anymore. And I agree. Players don't three-peat anymore. The last team to three-peat was the Lakers in the 01. Um, but the reason why players don't three-peat anymore and the reason why that happens is because the talent level is so much higher. Is because one year you'll have the Milwaukee Bucks being the best team in the league or the Boston Celtics being the best team in the league, and then the next year you'll have a team like the 76ers who now they could arguably be the best team in the Eastern Conference, or you'll have new breakout teams. And also, I mean, let's just be honest. Like players and teams don't three-peat anymore because LeBron James, and this is a point that I'm going to bring up later in the episode, is LeBron James has impacted the game and changed the game to where you need to have a super team to be in the NBA Finals. Every team that's in the NBA Finals as of late has been a super team. During Michael Jordan era, they were good teams. They were not they were not a Giannis, Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, Brooke Lopez. That's a super team. LeBron James, Miami Heat. That's a super team. Those Warrior squad. That's a super team. The Celtics, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. That's two MVP caliber players on a team. That's a super team. But during Michael Jordan's era, there was only one player that was arguably like that. Like we all knew he's that guy. Everybody else just played the roles. When even when you talk about that Suns team, yes, Kevin Johnson was good, was solid, but he was just a role player. Everyone knew the ball and the offense ran through Charles Barkley, just like the Chicago Bulls. Everyone knew Scottie Pippen was good, but he was just a role player at his best. The offense ran through Michael Jordan. But you can't say that about the Bucks. You can't say that about the Celtics. You can't say that about the Warriors. You can't say that about all these teams. Is because the talent level is so much higher, and that's because LeBron's impact on the game. So that's why players can't three-peat anymore because LeBron set such a high standard, and players were like, "Damn, we need to team up to take this guy down." So those are my rebuttal points. So I'll go ahead and get into now my second bit of the argument here. And this won't really be kind of too long. I'll just kind of talk about 2 points here. And one of my first points that I'll talk about is just gonna be stats, right? I've said this a couple of times in the episode now. I've said men lie, women lie, but numbers do not lie, man. So right here, what I have pulled up is Michael Jordan and LeBron James's per game average for their career. For this, so this is for their entire career. And then, as we see here, if you're on YouTube, you see it on the screen. If you're on the podcast, don't you worry about it. We got you, family. We're gonna run it off. Michael Jordan, he did beat LeBron in points. He career 30 points per game to LeBron's 27. But literally every other category, LeBron has him beat. In rebounds, LeBron has him beat 7.5 to 6.2. Assists, LeBron has him beat 7.3 to 5.3. Steals, LeBron does not have him beaten, so I misspoke. LeBron has 1.5 steals and Michael Jordan has 2.3 steals. They're both tied up in blocks at 0.8. LeBron does average more turnovers at 3.5 to 2.7. They're both averaging around 38 minutes per game. LeBron James is on 50% from the field versus Michael Jordan's 49. So LeBron James is better there. LeBron James 34% from the free throw line. From the 3-point line to Michael Jordan's 32. And then Michael Jordan has to beat him out in the free throw category. Michael Jordan 83 to LeBron James 74. So Michael Jordan has beat him out in the free throw category, in the turnover category, in the steals category and in the points category. Every other category goes to LeBron. So I definitely think that plays a part in that. Men lie, women lie, numbers don't, and that plays a part in versatility. So I just wanted to get into that. And also, LeBron James does have a career better true shooting percentage at 58% to Michael Jordan's 56, and also has a better plus minus than Michael Jordan, a career plus minus than Michael Jordan. But what I want to get to next is leadership, right? I think LeBron is a better leader than Michael Jordan, and this part of my argument is I'm not gonna lie, is a bit subjective because this can go both ways. Some people could think that Michael Jordan's leadership styles were the right way, and other people could think that they were the extremely wrong way, right? I mean, when we look at LeBron is often praised by his NBA peers about his leadership on and off the court. I mean, he's rallied teammates to NBA finals and made them better consistently. I want to remind everyone about that 10-year NBA finals run that LeBron had. And let's just be honest, man. Some of those guys should not have been in the finals. Yogoskas, Joel Anthony, Timothy Mozgov, Eric Snow, Norris Cole, Matthew Dellavedova. Look, I actually just met Matthew Dellavedova yesterday at the Kings game, so he's a super cool guy. So I don't want to speak down on him, but I do want to say that these guys were playing big minutes in the NBA Finals. You know why? Because LeBron James was able to build them up and make them seem like a good player, right? I think back to players like the Birdman, Chris Anderson, players that they only had a career. Basically, they only got their name when they were playing with LeBron James, and LeBron James made them look good. That's why when I talk about LeBron's leadership is the fact that he makes other players look good. And I'm not saying Michael Jordan isn't a leader, but his leadership style doesn't really make other players look good. His leadership style is like, yo, like you want to win, you want to look good in the end after you won 6 championships. Okay, cool. Here, give me the ball, and I'll just get a win. We'll win, and then you'll look good here in the end. Because a lot of Michael Jordan's teammates have a lot of rings. So if you're just gonna go off rings, some of those guys should be better than a lot of players who are than like the Reggie Millers, right? Than players who were good but just never got a ring. That's the point that I wanted to bring up is that like Michael Jordan was a great leader, but I mean like, bro, he was punching his teammates, right? Like Steve Kerr, he is super cool about it, but Steve Kerr talks about how Michael Jordan punched him in practice. Scott Burnell, like I'm sure he goes to therapy to this day for what Michael Jordan used to do to him. Michael Jordan used to hound him in and out of practice, in and out of the game. And I mean, I know everybody has, they respond to adversity in different ways, but I'll just say this, man: punching your teammate is not leadership. Punching your teammate and putting them in that situation is just not leadership. I don't care how you want to break it down and look at it. So I'll go ahead and leave it at that because I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and leave my last my last couple of points to the end, and then we'll wrap it up. So you can go ahead and run off your rebuttal, and then get to your argument, my boy.
Yeah. So a lot of things I want to touch on right now. I will say the first thing is I know you're talking about him as an all-time scorer once again, and that was the first thing you said. You're like, how could you not believe this? But the one thing I will say is that I think everything is nuanced, and there are some situations that are more favorable than others for using that method. This isn't even like a thing that's really necessarily with this debate, but just to use that logic and say like someone's a better scorer than someone because they have more total points. I mean, come on. Michael Jordan's easily a better scorer than Karl Malone. Like that shouldn't even be refuted or anything like that.
Yeah, but not LeBron James though.
But how do you know that? You're using the same method that you use for why Karl Malone would be a better scorer than Michael Jordan that you just told me like 20 minutes ago.
But
That's what I'm saying.
I'm also using the eye test though. We also know LeBron has a bigger bag than Karl Malone.
Well, then you might need glasses. Huh? No, but I'm just saying like this logic. So it would suggest that like Robert Parrish is a better scorer than Larry Bird, that Chris Paul is a better scorer than Steph Curry, that John Stockton is a better scorer than Bernard King. So you see how it can be flawed in a way, like how it can have its own flaws. And I'm not saying like okay, I mean, LeBron is a better scorer than all 6 of those guys I just named. Um, I mean, Curry probably more efficient, but like all the 6 of those guys, I would probably say you could definitely argue that LeBron is a better scorer than all of them. Most definitely, like guys like Chris Paul and John Stockton. But I'm just saying, like, everything is nuanced. Some situations are different, and LeBron has been in a situation where he's been given the keys basically from day one, and he's still had the keys for day 20. I'm not, or from year 20, and I'm not taking that away from him because he can, the fact that he can still play at a high level, that's great. But I just think that's something that should be counted for. It's not like again, like my same point where I made about like both completed the marathon, but someone runs past the finish line longer or something like that. So, and something else I will say is that like when you were showing the stats, LeBron probably has never had a true point guard on his team until maybe like 2019, I would argue. And even then, like he had the keys to the offense to be like the main playmaker. Because I'm looking at guys like Daniel Gibson or Mo Williams or Mario Chalmers or Norris Cole or Kyrie Irving, all those guys, even Kyrie, even Kyrie, even though he's a point guard, he's not a true point guard, right? Everyone looks at him as like a really like a combo guard that just plays point guard. And the same thing for a lot of those other guys. Most of them, they're not Kyrie, of course. Mo Williams could, he could play a little bit and he could play like a combo guard, but most of those other guys are just spot up 3-point shooters for the most part. So I think it's a little misleading there as well. But the one thing I will say about like LeBron with the playoff mode thing is that he just lies a lot and he sets a lot of unrealistic bars. How about like when he said the not 1, not 2, not 3 thing, not 4, not 5? That's something that's really huge, right? How about, I don't even know if you remember this, but after he lost in 2015 and he made a quote saying like, I've never seen a team win with less than 2 all-stars in the same season, like in the finals. And literally the last 2 times that had happened was the year before with the Spurs, because they only had 1 all-star that same season. And then also in 2011, where Dirk was the only all-star that season, right? And I know you could pull up that graphic again and be like, well, these guys were all-stars at one point. But I'm just telling you what he said. In 2016, when he said, I'm still chasing the ghost from Chicago. And then in 2019, when he claimed that he was the GOAT. Like he claimed himself he was the GOAT probably after what was one of his most embarrassing moments in missing the playoffs, right? This is the first time he missed the playoffs in 14 years prior to that. Like, it just doesn't look great. The only thing he would have had on his belt since that point would have been his 2018 playoff run, which ended in a sweep. And although it is a great playoff run, the fact that he got that far, you could argue that maybe the competition wasn't quite as great as people make it out to be. But my point is that, like, over those 3 years, I mean, he didn't win any rings. He didn't win any MVPs or anything like that. He didn't win all defensive anything. So it's like, what made you think you changed your mind over the last 3 years, right? And then also, like, the other thing, like, is this the convenient injuries? And I'm not going to question his health really, but it just seems convenient at points. Like the 2018 finals where he had the cast on, and even like right now, like with the scoring record and stuff too. Like he was so healthy the whole way through, and then he gets the scoring title, and then all of a sudden he sits out for a few games, and then he says, I'm going to play every game, and he's injured again. And I'm not going to question him too much because I'm not saying every injury has been like that, but there has been some times where it's like, like it's just interesting. You made a few points about super teams that have made the finals as a result of, I guess, like LeBron's decision in 2010 and how it's like changed the league. So just looking at like the last few years, the 2020 finals, the Miami Heat were a super team, or
Absolutely. Absolutely. That
really,
team. Bam
wow.
Adebayo that year was playing absolutely berserk. Jimmy Butler that year was playing out of his mind.
And the 2021 Suns were a super team.
Devin Booker, the number one, then DeAndre Ayton, the number 1 pick, who was the best big out there. Chris Paul.
You could argue now that, like, based on talent wise, the Suns are a super team.
The Bucks were.
Okay, and here's my thing. I don't even know if I would classify the Bucks as a super team, because to me, this is what it's always been. Like, a super team is when you have 3 all-star caliber players from like the year prior, and they're assembled by way of at least one of them signing on their own will. or maybe demanding a trade, and they have like a trade request thing, and or like a trade veto thing. And it's like, I'm only going to get traded if you trade me here or something like that. That's the only situation I could think of that would make a super team. And really, I mean, the Bucks, like, they traded for Holiday, but it wasn't from that situation. I mean, Giannis and Middleton, like, they drafted Giannis. They traded my guy Brandon Jennings for Middleton like a decade before that, almost. And like by that point, Middleton was like a nobody. Like when he got traded to Milwaukee, like he was coming off the bench for the Pistons. And I'm looking at that Heat team, like, I mean, I don't know if that's a super team. No one thought it was a super team when they joined. And same thing really with the Suns. I mean, that was a Chris Paul trade, and it wasn't like I'm demanding to get traded here. I don't even think the Celtics last year would have been really a super team. So,
bro, two MVP caliber players doesn't make it a super team.
Well,
not
okay,
by
my standard. No.
Okay. I guess by your standards. All right.
So, and I know you talked about true shooting percentage, which I think that's something that's more popularized today. Nobody was weighing it like that in the 90s and stuff like that. It was a different game. If they really cared about true shooting percentage and stuff like that and checking their stats every game. I mean, MJ shot above 40% from three before, and even without the shortened line, which I know like most LeBron fans are like, oh, the line was shortened and stuff. He still shot like 38% from three without the shortened line, which is really good. In fact, at one point, even I can't remember if it was with or without the shortened line, but one year he was a top 10 finisher in 3-point percentage.
Not for his career, though. Not for his career.
But there was a season. Well, is LeBron a top 10 3-point percentage shooter ever?
The debate is between LeBron and Jordan, and LeBron is a better 3-point and field goal percentage than Jordan for career.
Okay, but I just said he was a top 10 3-point percentage shooter for a season of his career. But you said not for his career. But now I'm asking, is LeBron have a top 10 3-point percentage for his career then? Like, does he or
probably not? Probably not.
Okay.
Probably not. But why is that? Eras are different. We got Stephen Curry's, we got Damian Lillard's. Curry, I believe, shot like 45%, something like that from the 3-point line. There's nobody doing that back then because, like how you said, eras were different.
I mean, that is true. I'm just asking you because you said career, so I was gonna base it off of career then for LeBron. Two more rebuttal things, and then I'll give my last like main point. But I know you mentioned like Ilgauskas. I mean, he was an all-star both with and without LeBron, so I wouldn't like cut him short really. I know you're face palming, but he literally was. Before LeBron joined the team, he was an all-star, and he was also an all-star with him. So you got to give him some credit. It's not like he was just like some bum or anything like that. And then also like one thing that I kind of thought of when you were bringing up like some of these players is that the Heat, after LeBron left in 2014, they were not healthy in 2015. Wade and Bosh were both injured. And then in 2016, Bosh was still hurt, but Wade was healthy, and he led them to the same seed, and he led them just as far as the 1994 Bulls, the first year without Jordan. So everyone that loves to make this point about like the Bulls or whatever, like they could do this without Jordan. Well, this same Heat team got just as far, just the same seed and everything as those Bulls. And really, I mean, Chris Bosh, again, was injured. If Chris Bosh is healthy, he was an all-star that year before he got hurt. I'm taking them to beat the Toronto Raptors, who, I mean, you can sit here like, but at the same time, I know you as a LeBron fan, I didn't know you in 2016, but what I will say is you can't sit here and tell me that over those years where LeBron was beating the Raptors, that you had faith in them in any playoff situation, right?
The Raptors, yeah, I mean, yeah. They won. The Raptors won after LeBron left.
Yeah, and I mean, because they mainly got Kawhi too, but I mean, the other thing is like after LeBron left. So I don't think people would have been taking them in that situation over a championship proven team with Wade and Bosh both healthy. That's my point. The last thing I will say though too is you mentioned like how Jordan punched Steve Kerr and stuff, and it's not a good representation of leadership. I will just ask you real quick. So is walking off the court before a game ends early, is that a good representation of leadership?
No, but much better than punching your own teammate.
Well, okay, you could definitely say that, but Jordan punched Steve Kerr once, and LeBron has done this over and over and over again. He's been doing this for over a decade now, right? So that's just something that should be accounted for. Like Jordan could have punched Steve Kerr and been like, you know what, I shouldn't have done that. Like that's on me. I don't know what he's going through. He could have very well been thinking that though. My guess is he probably didn't care because that's just who Jordan is. But what at the same time, like LeBron could have said, you know what, I shouldn't have walked off the court early. That's a bad reflection of my character. But he still does it over and over and
What
over
about
again.
Scott? What about the Scott Burnow?
You mentioned like with Scott Burrell, like at that time he was a young gun, and there's a lot of times in the league where veterans will bully the younger guys. You probably know it from experience yourself. Like with playing, like you always gotta like tease the little kids and stuff like that. So it is what it is.
Okay, I'll give you that.
Yeah. But no, I mean, so those are just my main rebuttals. I do have 3 points I wanted to make about like before, like for my final like argument really. So the first thing I will say is influence on the game. I could talk about this so much longer, but I'm going to sum this up a little bit. Everyone wanted to be like Mike growing up. They wanted to replicate his moves. They wanted their tongue out in midair. They wanted to switch the ball between hands midair. They wanted to try and dunk from the free throw line, even though 99.9% of people would fall on their face. But even though like Jordan credits guys like Dr. J for inspiring him to create his basketball craft the way he did. And I like Dr. J. I mean, he's a great guy. So, met him in person, actually. The way that Jordan pulled it off was just something that we've never seen before. It was taken to a whole nother level. And, he was essentially like the predecessor of all the moves that you see today, from ball handling being off the charts, jump shooting being off the charts, especially from mid range, and a couple of years as well from three. And again, like I said, he was top 10 one year from 3-point percentage in a season. Athleticism off the charts. And another area where I really feel he beats LeBron in his athleticism too. I mean, his 40-second dash time is already proven faster. His vertical leap is recorded higher. And he's nicknamed Air Jordan for a reason, because he could literally hang in midair for literally like a whole second without like hanging on the rim or anything like that, or any extra support or anything like that. Like everyone wanted to be like him, and I think that's just something huge. And so I guess like my second point will be is that, I mean, if you don't want to take it from me, then you might as well take it from the players. And here's just like a brief sample of, some players that what they've said, as according to, Fadeaway World. There's a whole list of quotes of what players have actually said. And Larry Bird, who literally compared Jordan to God himself after his second year in the playoffs. I mean, he said, I would never have called him the greatest I'd ever seen if I didn't mean it. Magic said, there's Michael Jordan and then the rest of us. I know that's a popular one. Allen Iverson said Mike is the GOAT and always will be. Even Shaq said the Last Dance only solidified the argument of who is the greatest of all time. Kevin Durant saying he's one of one. He's God level. He's incomparable. Charles Barkley as well, saying it was an honor and privilege to play against him. He's the best I've ever seen. Dwayne Wade, who was a teammate with LeBron during arguably his best years ever, saying MJ was chosen to be the GOAT. And then Jerry West saying he's the best basketball player athlete I've ever seen. Dirk Nowitzki, Kevin Garnett. I could rattle through a lot of these guys, but Patrick Ewing, Vince Carter. One I like on here too is Hakeem Olajuwon, who said comparing them isn't fair because Jordan was a far more superior player in a tougher league. He was more creative. It says that doesn't take away from LeBron because he's a great player, but it's just not a fair comparison because Jordan is just so superior. This is the guy who, again, won 2 championships between the three-peats as well. And he's saying that Jordan is the most superior. Stephon Marbury saying that Jordan isn't from this earth. Carmelo Anthony, this is LeBron's boy on the banana boat, saying MJ's the GOAT. He's the best player of all time. And we all agree with that. That's something I like that he put in there. He said we all agree with that, except for John. It's just like, taken from the players, this is what they're saying. And I mean, just to use a recent video, I don't know if you've seen like the Jimmy High Roller video from about 5 or 6 months ago before the season. He made a video, more like hundreds of NBA players, former and current, giving their opinion on who's the GOAT. And even though most of the players polled came from LeBron's era, Jordan received 62% of the votes and LeBron only 27%. And again, most of them played before before Jordan or during LeBron's era or a little bit like in the midst of like after Jordan as well. Among the players that were asked that played both Jordan and LeBron, 81.5% of them said Jordan's the GOAT and only 15% said LeBron. And if you switch that to just teammates, you have 68.5%, even though here's who was polled. So I did the math. Of the people that are teammates with Jordan and LeBron that were in this study, 68.5% of them were teammates with LeBron, and only 31.5% were teammates with Jordan. So that's almost 2-to-1 ratio of how many people are teammates with LeBron. Yet 74% of these guys picked MJ as the GOAT. Only 22% picked LeBron. And the only MJ teammate that was listed for LeBron was Scottie Pippen, who, he's changed his GOAT pick more than his underwear, right? I mean, he had Jordan and LeBron, then he picked Wilt, then he picked Kareem. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think he said like Bill Russell or something, just Summer or something. I have no idea. But, and B, he probably wouldn't be very inclined to pick MJ right now because his son's been trying to get after it with Larsa. I mean, let's be real. So, I'm not going to go too much further into that situation, but just my point is that taking Scottie Pippen's voice as the best voice probably wouldn't be a great idea. And overall, like most of the players, no matter if it's from this era or the former era or whatever, like I said, most of the people polled from that study were in LeBron's era. And yet most of them were still saying that Michael Jordan is the greatest player of all time. And the last main point I will say is that Jordan's going to live on forever. I mean, the fact that you and me right now, we're debating this should already speak volumes that Michael Jordan was seen as the GOAT from early bird days, let alone everything he accomplished afterwards. And then 30 more years have since passed. And if LeBron has yet to scratch the surface of major awards like rings and finals MVPs and regular season MVPs, defensive awards, and league leader awards, and is yet to win over the public's opinion in the GOAT debate, then he's not going to have a realistic long-term GOAT case. I mean, I know Kobe had a hot discussion about it. Like it was a Kobe LeBron debate for years, right? But it eased up after he retired. And I get that LeBron, in most people's minds, has accomplished more than Kobe, has more trophies than Kobe, but he still doesn't have more trophies than Jordan. And the success of the Jordan brand, too, will only make it harder. I mean, Jordan's net worth is like more than double LeBron's, and yet inflation has greatly changed. And yet Jordan wasn't even allowed to make that much money under the salary cap when he did play. In fact, his highest single season salary is still less than what Ben Simmons is getting this year. So that just puts it into perspective, right? And yet he's still worth more, largely because of his brand, his image. Everyone wanted to be like Mike, the shoes, the clutch moments, which I didn't even really talk about his clutch moments in NBA history, but he really has more iconic clutch moments in this debate. And his brand is only going to get bigger over time and faster. It's for LeBron, like, sure, he has some clutch moments too, but most would probably take MJ's game 6 shot in Utah above LeBron's game 7 block. Most people would probably take Jordan's shot versus Cleveland that won them the series. And had he missed, the series would have been over and they would have gone home over LeBron's shot against my Bulls in 2015 or the Magic in 2009 that just won them one game and not the series. Or his NBA Finals game winner in 1997, because it's the NBA Finals against Utah in game 1 over LeBron's shot against Indiana, which only put them up like 3-2, I believe, in the series. They just scream iconic louder, and most people would agree with that. The shoes scream iconic louder as well because it's just a fashion design. It lets you know that you have the power and want to be like Mike. LeBron's brand simply isn't no, but simply like the shoes scream iconic louder because it's a fashion design, and it lets you know that you have the power, that you want to be like Mike. And some people feel like Mike, but LeBron's brand, it's just not that big. And even through his story through high school, it's an all-time great one. No one can deny that. But I mean, the world, like, there's more of a response to Michael Jordan whenever there's any news than there is LeBron. So again, while he's still playing, this debate can reach its apex point. But once he finishes up, in likely a few years, you're going to see it all start to wash away piece by piece. And I'll let you go and you can rebuttal. And then I'll give my, I guess, last rebuttal. But yeah.
That's crazy. Garrett, brother, there's no way you, bro. Okay. Okay, hold on. I got some things to rebuttal. So the quotes, like, I mean, like, I feel like that's a hard one because, like, I literally just looked up online, like, quotes, like, NBA players made about LeBron.
Oh,
Like,
if I can make one more point, when I was mentioning the percentages with how players feel about the GOAT debate, a little birdie told me once that men lie, women lie, but numbers don't. So go ahead.
All right, so with the quotes, that was funny. So with the quotes, right? I just looked up NBA players like quotes they made about LeBron, and I have here Scottie Pippen, Kareem, Jalen Brown, Stephen A. Smith, uh, Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade. So like I mean, like, I don't think it would, do me, like, I guess, like, any good to sit here and like read off like the quotes. I mean, I think I think it can go both ways for that, because it's like quotes are also like you could ask somebody a question and then they can answer and then you kind of quote them in that. But okay, I guess that's that. I needed to touch on, you said LeBron was healthy before the scoring record. You clearly are not watching Lakers games because he was not healthy before the scoring record. He actually did not play in back-to-backs. Like, and that's the number one thing that pissed me off is whether he was closer or not to to that scoring record. He still was not playing in back-to-backs. And because he wasn't healthy, and he is 30 freaking 8. And then you said, I'm gonna just touch on, you said about Uglaskis, and okay, cool, he might have been an all-star that year, but like, let's be honest, bro, like that 06-07 Cavs team like sucked. Like, they should not have been in the NBA finals, and LeBron carried them there. I mean, Drew Gooden, Daniel Gibson, Damian Jones, uh uh freaking Scott Pollard, Eric Snow, David Wesley, like that team was not. So like, I'll give you that point. Like, Ilgauskas might have been like solid, and like, all right, maybe I was trying to get on him, but like, that team was not an NBA Finals type team. But LeBron was able to carry them there. And then you said that Dwayne Wade. Well, you read off Dwayne Wade's quote when Dwayne Wade said that MJ, was the chosen, right? It was chosen, bro. Do you realize that LeBron James, and this is one thing I'm going to get to in my argument. Do you realize that since seventh grade, okay, seventh grade, you remember what you were like in seventh grade, right?
I think so, yeah. I mean, it's a while ago.
I hope so. I mean, so look,
a while ago.
So you remember that, bro? LeBron James in seventh grade has been deemed not by Dwayne Wade, but by the entire world as the chosen one. He, in his freshman year of high school, got a tattoo on his back and was put in front of the Sports Illustrated magazine that said "The Chosen One." Now, if that's not the chosen one, then what is? Like, so he has been the chosen one, and not only by like one or two NBA players. I think that, like, no, like, the world has deemed him as a chosen one since seventh grade. And the crazy part is that he's 38 and he is not let down. There's nothing you can do like, wow, LeBron let me down, man. I mean, like, man, I'm sure if people don't like him, it's like, oh, he let me down. He didn't win all 10 championships. I'm sure that's something like that. But I mean, as far as like real, like, he didn't perform, like, man, he's been there, had the weight on his back. So that's another point. It's like he's just had more pressure. But I just want to touch on this, is my last rebuttal point. Then I'll get to my conclusion of my main argument. You said LeBron James brand isn't big. That is, Garrett. That is blasphemy right there. LeBron James.
No. That's not what I said. I'm gonna just say it is big, but when you compare it to Michael Jordan's, it doesn't look big.
Bro, look at it.
The numbers again.
Okay. I'll give you like financially the numbers. Okay, I'll give you that, and I'll also give you, like, everybody like wants to be like Mike, but that's changing. Okay, that's changing. It's like I tell my brother this all the time, right? My brother's a big soccer fan, loves soccer, and I don't know if basketball or any sport will like ever really surpass soccer. Because it's just, soccer is just so easily played like all around the world. Like, everybody has feet, and then you could just be in poverty and barefoot playing soccer. So that's why I'm saying, like, everyone plays soccer. But basically, I'm saying to say soccer has been the world's biggest sport. Okay, But I think since the 21st century, basketball is trying to turn that corner and is really starting to catch up as far as popularity. And what I'm trying to tell you is that yes, a lot of the people and people who are like older now, when they were kids, they wanted to be like Mike. A lot of people want to be like LeBron nowadays. A lot of the little kids nowadays want to be like LeBron. A lot of the athletes now, and I'm not. I'm talking about the little kids who are like in school still, and I'm talking about like the athletes who are in a college and high school, or some of these NBA rookies. Go ahead, you could do the research yourself. A lot of them will say, "Oh yeah, I grew up on LeBron. Oh yeah, I was a big LeBron guy. I grew up on like the people who are around our age. They grew up on LeBron, and LeBron is Jordan to them. LeBron is like, oh, I want to be like that. Oh, I've been seeing that since I was a child. And at the end of the day, look, this is a hard argument to say, but and I know like to you or to somebody else, and you guys may think otherwise, but like when it's all said and done, like when LeBron retires, when Jordan's been retired, when time goes by, I do think LeBron's brand will have a longer legacy than Michael Jordan's brand, and here's why: because of the impact he's had on the game. I understand Michael Jordan's had an impact on the game, but LeBron's had an absurd impact on the game, which I'm actually going to get to. But I think that even if you don't know basketball, even if you don't, sit there and watch the Oklahoma City Thunder versus the Houston Rockets on a Thursday afternoon, right? Even if you're not a basketball junkie, you will look up like, oh, I wonder who leads the NBA in scoring. And you're just going to see, boom, the name LeBron James. And that is always going to keep his name, his brand popular and in the rotation. So I think that like, is it not only is his brand huge? I mean, it's hard to compare his brand with Michael Jordan because Michael Jordan is NBA players who aren't signed use his shoes. So like I feel you on that. But I think that as far as like, when everything goes down, like I'm talking like 50, 60 years down the line, when like people who they didn't see LeBron or Michael Jordan play because they're that young, they're just gonna know like, okay, well, like the accolades, man, that man is the number one scorer of all time. But let me get to my last and concluding argument here. So I finished off talking about leadership. So I'm gonna go ahead and get into career efficiency, which I won't spend too much time on. We already talked about it. Just kind of wanted to bring up the fact that LeBron was just career more efficient than Michael Jordan from the field and from the 3 point line. So I don't honestly don't even want to waste too much time on there. But also LeBron was more efficient when it mattered most too. LeBron had 18 playoff triple doubles to Michael Jordan's 2 playoff triple doubles, and then impact of the game. And that's where I was just talking about, right? So LeBron James had a crazy impact on the way basketball is played today. And he's actually been the leader in this whole positionless basketball. And players that can kind of you'll have a player like Jokic. So you'll have a player like a Giannis who can really do a little bit of everything out there. Now, why is that? Because they seen when they were young, they were looking up to who? The man who was the positionless in this. And that was and no, that's LeBron James. Also, I touched on this earlier. After LeBron James went to the Heat, that the whole decision thing, he gave power to the players. It was that the ownership had power. It was that the management had power. But after LeBron did that, he showed the players that look, if you say you want to team up, y'all get on the same train, y'all good clicked up. Who gonna stop you? You're the product. You're the one that people are paying for. So LeBron changed the game by giving power to the players. And like I said, you really need about 2 to 3 like true superstars on your team to be able to win a ring. And then also, just like I mentioned, he's showing young, great athletes that you can be great on and off the court. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and talk about his off the court accomplishments to try to bolster my GOAT debate, but it is pretty proven the man has a freaking school. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that's crazy. So his leadership on and off the court is showing great athletes. It's like, look, man, like you're not supposed to be Allen Iverson. You're not just supposed to go score 30 points and then go freaking rob somebody. Like you're supposed to go score 30 points and then continue to be this great citizen, this great man. And I mean, look, I don't know LeBron James personally, unfortunately, but I will say this. He's had the pressure on him since seventh freaking grade. And you cannot tell me, unless it's some freaking like fake article or fake news trying to bash on LeBron, you cannot tell me one time where you're like, dang, LeBron got caught with this rape case. Dang, LeBron caught cheat on his girl. Dang, LeBron James not being there for his kids. Dang, like no, there's nothing you could say. So he's just great on and off the court. And I think that's the blueprint for these for these new athletes. And then also my last point as far as impact on the game is his him being so outspoken for social justices, right? Um, the whole thing that he did with the I can't breathe with wearing the shirts, the whole thing with the voting and getting out there and vote, the whole shut up and dribble thing. So I mean, LeBron James, I think is just way more just had an impact in the game than Michael Jordan. But this is what I'm going to end off here with, and then you can go ahead and get into your rebuttal, and then we'll wrap it up. Ultimately, I think the debate's going to forever go on, right? Some people are going to say LeBron, some people are going to say Jordan, but you said it. I mean, I said it, then you said it. We've been saying it all show, my boy. Men lie, women lie, but numbers don't. And LeBron James, in a career, has more career points, more career rebounds, more career assists, more career steals, on a better field, on a better 3-point percentage and field goal percentage. So I'm taking LeBron as my GOAT.
Well, what I will say just to that is, you talk about the numbers thing again, but like when I was rattling off like the advanced analytics and everything that MJ finishes above LeBron in, or, the number of championships, the number of finals MVPs, because those, at the end of the day, those are numbers. More regular season MVPs, all defensive, the league leader stuff, like those are also numbers too. So, I mean, you could say these numbers like this assists per game and rebounds per game and all that stuff and whatnot. But at the end of the day, like Jordan has a lot of numbers that favor him too. I'm not going to get too much into that though, but I guess some of my last rebuttaling points is, I know you mentioned some guys like look up to LeBron, and I'm not denying that they do. I know you mentioned Giannis as one instance, but if you haven't already, I would recommend maybe that watching the Disney Plus like documentary about him, like in his family, called Rise. And in that documentary, there's a big focus on who he looked up to a lot, and that was Hakeem Olajuwon, actually.
I wasn't saying. I wasn't sorry. I mean, let me fix what I was saying. I wasn't saying Giannis looked up to him. I'm saying LeBron made basketball positionless to where players can be like, dang, like I don't have to just be a big man. I can be a player like Giannis and still be able to dribble the ball down court.
One thing I will say about that too is one guy LeBron has always given credit to for years, not as much recently, but especially when he was with Miami, he would always give credit to Oscar Robertson about that as well. And I think you could go back so far about like some of those type of arguments that I don't know if like maybe LeBron had a big impact on it for a lot of guys this generation, but it's like who impacted LeBron, right? This is what I was saying earlier with like Dr. J. It's just that like Jordan revolutionized it to a different level. And I'm not denying that LeBron hasn't to a different level than like the Grant Hills of the world or the Magic Johnsons, but I'm just saying like it goes both ways here. So it's not like much of like anything like pro LeBron and like, oh, Jordan didn't have this or something. But I'm my go, like I'm focusing on what they do on the court, and then off the court, I focus on how much influence they give to these other players in their play styles or whatever. What LeBron does for charities and stuff and other foundations is nice. And if we are basing it on that, I'll definitely give LeBron that edge, because I think he's contributed to a lot more charities or foundations or whatever organizations than Jordan. Although, MJ supported Chicago, especially like I don't remember how long ago it was, but he gave like a big donation to him a while ago. A few times, I think he has to Charlotte. He recently made a donation like of like 10 million to Make-A-Wish. So
I've seen that. That was like the biggest one.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, he definitely does this stuff too. I mean, he doesn't portray himself probably as the friendliest. So I would give that edge, I guess, to LeBron, but that doesn't like have a huge weight in my GOAT debate either. And being the chosen one, it's a lot of pressure. And I'm not saying he hasn't achieved expectations or been a letdown. And there's no intended disrespect with, like when I said earlier, he's a certified top 5 player ever. And like for me, I think he's definitely top 3. I currently have him 2, but I just don't have him 1. I don't think that's like a disrespect or a slate or anything. What I will ask you though is, I just had a question, because I know you said like it's like changing, and like what you were saying, like making that comparison with soccer. So like, in what way would you say has it been changing that people like aren't trying to like be like you said, like the younger players or younger people, like they look up to LeBron more, and there's definitely going to be some LeBron fans that are younger, because it's like, okay, this guy's the most accomplished player currently in the league. Like we want to, like years down the line, we're going to be like, man, like I saw LeBron play live. Like there's a lot of kids like that. Like for me personally, like literally I was born, and there wasn't a whole lot of years where Jordan played after I was born. So it's like, man, like Mike played after I was born. Like that's crazy, right? So, but I will say to you, like, how is it like changing, I guess, the way people like don't want to be like Mike? I'll ask you that.
Yeah, it's not that people don't want to be like Mike, but it's that people are seen a new blueprint that's like, okay, LeBron James has been ever since he's young, 16, 17, stretching, eating right, doing the I don't know the name, but like that ice chamber thing, spending millions of dollars on his body, doing all of this, so then that people thought like, oh, why is LeBron doing this? Why, what the heck? But then now he's 38 and he's keep going. Like, I just want to just like real quick, just give an example. Kendrick Perkins, he's the same age as LeBron, which is crazy, right? Kendrick Perkins
Mm-hmm.
talked about how they were at an AAU tournament they were like 17, 18, like around that, a young age. You kind of eat whatever, do whatever. And he said that all the guys, right, they were on the team. LeBron was there. All the guys with after the game, what were they doing? They were going out, going to parties or going doing whatever, eating McDonald's, eating all this and that. And he said the only guy that wasn't was LeBron. He was the guy going to the room. He was the guy grabbing all his homies saying, yo, like, let's go watch film together. Let's not go out. Let's stretch. LeBron was the only guy eating the veggies. LeBron was the only guy doing the right thing. So I'm just saying, like, the young players are learning, like, oh, man, like, I can stretch my career and have longevity like LeBron. And people are leaning more towards that.
Yeah, I mean, like, see, first of all, like that stuff, like, I mean, that's just kind of like in a way living life, and I know Jordan did that too, Kobe did that too. Um, I mean, it's not like they're free of that too, because I vividly remember there was a clip that's surfaced. I don't know if it was, I think it was for the Dream Team, like it was LeBron and Dwight Howard and Darren Williams in that gas station. Remember, and they were eating together. So like, I think they were eating McDonald's actually,
No,
but
I'm
like,
not saying he's never did it, but I'm just saying,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
as a whole.
Yeah, no, no. I mean, I'm not like, even if like anyone like did that, like, I'm not gonna say you're gonna criticize LeBron in the GOAT debate because he wants a Big Mac. Like, I mean, that's some hater stuff.
Oh, that's
Um,
hilarious.
no, or some McNuggets. But no, like, anyways, like, I will say though, just like people have done that as well, like with Kobe. I think like growing up for me, like Kobe was like more so the guy that a lot of like young people like looked up to. And he was again like too like one of my favorite players. You know me, like my favorite guy is D Rose, but like Kobe was one of my favorite players growing up too, and that was just my era. But at the end of the day, like I'm still sitting here saying Michael Jordan is the GOAT. And there were a lot of people that were, pushing like, Kobe, he's the GOAT like for a bit there, right? I think like it would have been really interesting to see how it would have ended up if he didn't like tear his Achilles near the end. But I still most likely, unless something dramatic would have happened, like probably would still be leaning toward Michael Jordan. But and I mean, this is like you got Kobe, who is so influential, like to at least for like my time, and it's like people were shooting paper balls and trash cans, and they're like Kobe and stuff, right? But overall, I think Jordan's brand, like his value compared to like what he earned in the NBA, like salary wise, it's like almost 10 times or a dozen times more than it was like when he was playing. Whereas like LeBron, he's earned a lot in the NBA, and that contributes as well to his net worth, which his brand is also really big. But like the discrepancy there, it's about like probably his brand is about 2-3 times as big as he's earned in the NBA. So I'm just looking at that like about 10 times, 12 times the difference, as opposed to maybe 3-ish times the difference. Down the line, like I feel like it's gonna start like jumping more. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So at this, like when Jordan was LeBron's age right now, like his brand wasn't worth as much as LeBron's is, and part of that is inflation. But like even to the point where Jordan's brand is just going to continue growing, even probably when he passes away, right? Like his brand's going to keep growing on and on and on, probably for the rest of our lifetime, right? So that's just why I don't think it's like ever gonna like diminish like that. I feel like now it's like established itself as like something huge like that. But overall, I mean, yeah, I'm not denying like LeBron has a big brand, or that he's like I said, like I think he's the second greatest player ever, but I just don't have him as my GOAT. And that's not to say like he's a failure or something like that, because or whatever. Like him being like the chosen one. Like I think people at least expected him to eventually lead a team to a championship, especially Cleveland when he got drafted there. It's like, oh, you got to win it for where you're from and stuff like that. And he did do that, and he's also exceeded that in many other ways. So he's definitely exceeded expectations. But at the same time, so has Michael Jordan. And I personally think that Michael Jordan is the greatest player of all time. And I mean, yeah, that's just where I sit. I mean, I've made my points, but I don't know. Yeah.
Yes, sir, man. Yes, sir, man. For the family out there, man. Now it's up to you, man. Now the ball is on your court. You've heard what I said. You've heard what Garrett said, man. We've just been look at him, man, holding up that Jordan ball. Man. So you've heard what I said, man. You heard what Garrett said. You heard both debates, man. So now again, like I said, the ball's on your court, man. Let us know who do you got, who's your GOAT, and give us a couple of reasons as to why. So make sure, man, as always, you smash that like button, smash that subscribe button. Go check out my guy Garrett's channel, man. Everything will be in the description down below. Go check him out. I mean, by now he's a regular on the show, man. You know what I'm saying? That's just my guy. But make sure you go check him out. Go show us some love on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. It's at Clutch Talk Pod. And just stay tuned, man, because we got a lot more coming up for these next upcoming weeks. But if that's it, then we out of here, y'all. Clutch Talk out.